Thanks for checking out another episode of 10-Minute Insurance Tips with Chris. Today we're going to be talking about auto liability and umbrella insurance. Hi, my name is Chris Januski. I'm from the Wasiczko Agency. We're an independent property and casualty insurance agency in New York, but we're licensed in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. All right, so today I'd like to start with a question. Why do you have the coverage that you have for your auto insurance? Right? So the limits that you have, or the amount of coverage that you have, why do you have those numbers? Is it because that's the limit, that's what's required legally and that's the minimum amount? Is it because you know you need a little more than the minimum, but you're not sure how much you need? Did somebody tell you it's a good idea, but you're not really sure why you need those numbers, that amount of coverage? All right, so we're going to address that today. And what is an umbrella insurance? Why would you think about having it? All right, so give a little example here, right? All right, we're going on vacation. It's a road trip with the family, right? You got your significant other next to you. You got two kids in the back seat. You're driving down the road. Well, you've been on the road now for 6 hours, and it's been a long 6 hours. Those kids, you're not sure how many times you've heard, "Are we there yet?" And you've been in and out of traffic. You're just getting frustrated. You want to get to the place where you're arriving tonight, and you're ready to be out of the car. So finally, the kids are going at it one more time, and you turn around, and it felt like just a second. You turn around and see what they're doing, and boom! Car stopped. Airbags are deployed. You're on the side of the road, and you hear a horn going off. You have no idea what's going on. It was a complete accident, but what you didn't see was there was a car up on the side of the road on the shoulder, and they were changing the tire. But they really didn't get off to the side of the road completely. And the car in front of you had to slam on the brakes so that they didn't hit the person on the side of the road. Well, while you were turning around, you went full force into this car in front of you, and it pushed that car into that car on the side of the road to that gentleman that was changing the tire. Now, thank God nobody died, but there's going to be people with some lifelong injuries. And that's the reason why you have auto insurance. Now, the question is, does your policy have enough to pay for that? All right, so that's what we're talking about today. And we're not talking about auto insurance, what's required legally. We're talking about what's going to protect you, God forbid an accident happens. All right, so in New York, that's where we're based. I'm going to talk about what the minimums are and why you want to consider having more than what the minimum is. So bodily injury insurance. This is what state requires that you have $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident. Now, what's that mean? Bodily injury liability. It means that if you're at fault and somebody else is injured, that's the most that your insurance policy is going to pay. So $25,000 per one person, or for the entire accident, $50,000. That's the state minimum. The state minimum for property damage is $10,000. And property damage means anything that you hit, right? If it's another vehicle, if it's a building, if it's just a guardrail. So $10,000 in today's today's environment, most cars on the road are worth more than $10,000. So having minimum limits, yes, it's legally what's required, but what if you cause damage to somebody else that's higher than what your limit is? That's when your assets, the things you own, come on the line. If they were to sue you, you could lose your home. You could have your wages garnished. So having this policy in place with higher limits helps protect you. All right, so like I said, 25 and 50 is the absolute minimum, and it goes up from there. There's a bunch of numbers I can throw at you. It goes from 50,000 to 100,000 to 100, 300, 250, 500. Point is, there's lots of options and lots of coverages available, and that's the importance of sitting down with an insurance agent to make sure that you have a policy that's going to cover what you own. God forbid something terrible happens. All right. So I talked about an umbrella insurance policy. So what is umbrella insurance? So instead of that liability of just $25,000 or $50,000 per accident, what this is, it's an extra $1 million, and it's an umbrella. They call it umbrella because it's going to sit on top of all of your policies, not just your auto policy. So if you have a homeowner's policy, it's going to give you an extra $1 million of liability for your home. For if you have an RV, off-road vehicles, ATVs, motorcycles, boats. If you own a second property that's a rental property, this $1 million could be extra liability on top of that. So what that is, it's just a cushion. So whatever the base policy offers, it's $1 million on top of that. And you can even go more than 1 million. They come in increments of $1 million. So what it does is it lets you sleep a little better at night. So back to the original example of that auto accident, right? Like I said, nobody passed away, but there was definitely lifelong injuries, and there's going to be a lawsuit. And it was a complete accident, but at the end of the day, you were negligent and you're at fault. You rear-ended somebody causing this accident. So by having this umbrella policy in place, you're helping protect everything you own. When that lawsuit happens, having this extra coverage there, that liability insurance, it's for those unforeseen. It's not for the small everyday accidents. It's for the large unexpected losses that if it happens, you could lose everything you own. So I'm not trying to scare you, just trying to be realistic about what's on the line. God forbid an accident happens. All right, so we talked about the idea that an umbrella policy can cover, let's say, a secondary home. Let's say it's a rental, it's a two family home that you have as rental property, and your tenants are amazing, right? Both sides, it's a side by side, and they're amazing. They pay every month. They never give you complaints. They're some of the best tenants ever. And all of a sudden you get a call from emergency services that there's been an explosion at your house, at the house that you own. And you get there, you're driving over, you're like, what could this mean? And you get there and you can't even get to the house. There's police and fire and ambulances everywhere, and you have no idea what's going on. By the time you actually walk up to the house, past all these emergency vehicles, you see all the windows are completely gone. The front door is blown out. It's on the other side of the street. There was a gas explosion, and you hear the neighbors saying how terrified they were to hear this, and then see their neighbors being brought out and put in the ambulances, and there was kids involved. And you're like, there's one child that lives there. Why are there so many kids? Well, the house that didn't have the explosion, the one right next door to it, they were having a party. There was their 6-year-old son's birthday party. There was a bunch of children in the house when this explosion occurred. Now, again, it's in this example, nobody died, but there's injuries, right? And these kids are going to the hospital, and those parents, you can bet that they're going to hold somebody accountable for this. Now, it was a gas leak in a property that you own. You might not be 100% at fault. You might not be completely liable, but you might be. If it comes up that it was negligence on your part as a landlord, and that caused this explosion, which injured all of these people, if you just have a base policy for this rental property, I guarantee that this loss is going to exceed whatever your limits are. And that's why it's important to have that umbrella policy there, because sometimes accidents happen, and this is what would help you in that type of situation. All right, I'm not trying to paint a doom and gloom scenario at all. Just trying to be realistic. I would hate for somebody to have a claim against them and they didn't know this was available. At the end of the day, it's up to you as a property if you want an umbrella policy. I highly recommend it. For the amount of money it costs to get the coverage compared to what it can do for you in a large claim, it's risk analysis, and you look at it and does it make sense financially? In my opinion, it does every single time. And I just laid out an example of why. But at the end of the day, it's a decision you get to make. So if you want to discuss further about what your options are in regards to an umbrella policy and what it can do for you, please reach out to me. You can give me a call or email, and I'd love to do a review of your policy. All right, so next time, please tune in. We're going to be discussing what it means to hire a contractor, everything that you should know that the contractor has. And on top of that, if you are a contractor, what type of insurance can you have or should you have, or what are your different options? What coverages are available? All right, thanks again for checking out 10-Minute Insurance Tips with Chris. Look forward to talking to you soon.